Carlos, first of all, what went into the decision to use Hageman tonight, and what's the plan now for tomorrow?
Yeah, so once Brasovan got in trouble there in the sixth inning, we didn't have much. We needed probably to use the whole bullpen there. And that was one of the reasons we brought Hageman here for today's game. For a scenario like that, we shot him there. He was able to finish the game and protect a couple of the other guys. Now we're having that discussion. We got to go back. I don't have a starter right now, so I'm working with David, and we'll continue the discussion.
Obviously, every team goes through slumps over the course of the season. Over these 6 games, is there one theme in particular that you've seen as kind of a through line to why you guys are struggling?
Yeah, I think they're starting pitching right now. They've been so good the whole year. Pretty much carry us all the way through this point, and you lose a couple of guys that were consistently throwing the ball well, and then some of the other guys, a couple of bad outings. It happens. We're going through a rough stretch right now. 6 games, obviously, but starts right there on the mound.
Wade Tudball's the guy who would seem to make sense on paper for tomorrow. How seriously are you considering him?
Yeah, he's one of the names that we're talking about.
Who else is in that mix?
I got to go back and talk to David.
Are you still set on not doing a bullpen game tomorrow?
No, especially with we haven't got much length from our starter the past the last time through. So it's most likely going to be a regular start for whoever comes up.
How daunting is this a little bit? I mean, you've lost 6 in a row, and now you're going into Philly. They're hot. They're a good team. I mean, just this stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of 162, We're a good team, too, We know these guys are good. The Phillies are good. From the beginning, we all knew that it was going to be a fight. It was going to be a battle. And here we are, going through a rough stretch, but also understanding that we're a good team. And right now, it's hard for us. But we'll find a way. We got a lot of good players in there, and we just got to continue to grind through it.
The lineup put together some good at-bats those first 3 innings against Strider. What kind of shifted after that?
Yeah, we started chasing. But you're absolutely right. I thought, that first time through, we put together some really good at-bat. But then, we started chasing. And we couldn't do much after that. He kept going, made us chase. And that was the key there. I thought, like I said, first three innings, we did a better job. We hit some balls hard. We created some traffic. But then after that, we didn't do anything there.
Uncharacteristic amount of walks from Clay tonight. What did you see out of his command specifically?
Yeah, they put together some really good at-bats, but he had a hard time, throwing his pitches in the strike zone, This is a guy that has been really good for us, especially attacking the strike zone. And watching him today, like I said, they put together good at-bats and gets in trouble there in the 5th, obviously, gets Ozuna, but then loses his Baldwin. But, yeah, the walks obviously hurt him there.
How concerned are you about his workload, considering he's never pitched this many major league innings?
I'm not going to say I'm concerned, but this is something that we're watching closely. I thought, today he was in a way better spot physically compared to where he was last outing, after that outing in Colorado. But, we'll continue, after every outing, continue to test him and all that, and but he continues to say it and feels good. So,
what issues were you having out there with your command?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the walks, they hurt us there tonight. Especially that last inning. I mean, you walk that many, eventually it's hard to avoid the big inning, and the leadoff walk, it hurt there. The Kuna getting on, and Riley hit a good sinker, but at the end, I think it just forced me to throw a lot more pitches, and didn't execute really what I needed to there at the end. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to overcome that many walks, I think, and I felt like the stuff felt pretty good tonight. I think it was just a matter of executing some of the secondaries in the zone. I think not enough strikes with those, and just got a lot of deep counts with them.
And that last at bat against Baldwin, you had that pitch com issue right before throwing that final pitch. Not using it necessarily as an excuse, but how difficult is it to be in that rhythm and then have it broken up before such a big pitch there?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what was going on there. I don't know if it was just a sweat or whatnot, but yeah, it definitely disrupted things a little bit. But at the end of the day, got to make a pitch there. I would say it was probably more so of throwing that many pitches in the inning and fatigue more so than some little break there. But like I said, it's tough to overcome that many walks. I feel like I've made some good pitches, but credit to them for fouling a few good pitches off there and laying off some, and they definitely forced me to work a little bit.
Clay, what's the temperature of the team right now? You lost 6 straight going into Philly to play a tough Phillies team.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it's not ideal. I think we know that, but I think you look around, you see effort, and see the preparation. At the end of the day, you keep doing those things. We'll come out of it. We're a lot of good players in here, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take pitching, hitting. It's not going to be one guy or one thing that gets us through this. It's going to be everything kind of coming together, and there's a lot of faith in who we have in here and what we can do. But we've got to go through it. It's definitely it's tough right now, but like I said, I think there's a lot of belief in who we are and what we have in here, and it's just a matter of doubling down on that and picking each other up and taking one game at a time. You're not can't do it all at once. So show up tomorrow and put the effort in, put the preparation, and try to go 1-0 tomorrow and start stacking some good days here.
Clay, you guys have had the best rotation area in the game for pretty much the whole season. Obviously, there have been a couple injuries, but for the guys who are healthy, why do you think some of these struggles have kind of happened for everyone at the same time here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the point in the season where I think people are seeing you. There's scouting reports out. There's things you do well, things you haven't been doing well, and I think it's just part of the game. You gotta make adjustments. You gotta start executing things. When you're maybe a little more tired, you have to execute some of your second, third pitches, and I don't think it's all one thing really. But we know that at the end of the day, it comes down to the execution. Just got to do a little bit better job of that.
Are you feeling the impact of pitching more innings, major league innings this year than you ever have in your career?
I'd say no. I mean, I feel like my stuff was probably some of the best it's been all year today. I felt really good. Ball was coming out. I feel like I was moving, pretty fast. I feel like the ball was coming out probably the best it has all year today, and so. I mean, not really. I think, still feeling a good spot. I think it was just a matter of probably executing that stuff tonight versus, any type of, previous workload. So I feel like I'm in a good spot, physically and pitch-wise. It's just a matter of just executing a little bit better. You face good teams, you got to execute, and we didn't do a good enough job of that tonight.
Did losing Kodai and Tylor and, two very good starting pitchers in 1 week kind of change the vibes or the atmosphere around here?
I mean, you're definitely aware of it, especially, the pitchers they are. I mean, they were really good pitchers. There's no denying that, it's tough losing those, but at the same time, we got to believe in the guys, and we got to do all we can to be the best versions that we are, and the guys that step up for them, do all we can to be there with those guys, and there's a lot of faith in kind of what we can put out there. So I think it's one of those things where, like I said, it's just going to take all of us, and it's going to take there's going to be injuries, there's going to be some guys go down, and guys are going to have to step up.
Brandon, tonight overall as a team, what changed in the at bats in your mind after the first few innings for a group?
Well, I don't know that anything really changed. Strider did pretty well all night. We were able to get across a run. Great, job by Mauricio. Great job by Tyrone, getting into scoring position. But then after that point, I mean, he was just pretty much in command. He did a good job of mixing his pitches. Coming in the zone when he needed to, vacating when he needed to. I felt like he pitched pretty well. And then they got a pretty decent lead, and it was a tough hole to dig out of. So I just feel like he did well, and had us swinging at pitches outside the zone, but was able to come in the zone enough to keep us off balance.
You've been around long enough to know that no matter what, 162, you're going to go through stretches like this. What, though, has been the difference in your mind these last 6 versus the type of start you guys got off to?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like we were finding a way to win ball games, being able to stay close and create some comebacks, when we were able to go through the good stretches. But you're right. I mean, pretty much every team, say maybe 1 or 2. I don't know. I really can only think of one. But pretty much every team has gone through a stretch that we're going through right now, whether they've gone through it, recently or at the very beginning. It's going to happen. It doesn't make it any easier to go through. And you don't want to just rely on that and just be like, well, okay, it's going to happen and it'll get better. But you just got to look towards tomorrow. Prepare, do everything that you can, everything that's in your control, and try and prepare that way, and then go in tomorrow to try and win. I mean, really, all it takes is winning one game, and then you win another one, and it's a winning streak. So. It happens quickly. Games are decided by small margins in this level. So, it's something that you just have to kind of face, get through it, and push through it, and try and get to the other side as quickly as possible.
This is a place that historically wasn't all that kind to you, and then you guys reversed that last year. What is just the disappointment of not being able to maybe keep that momentum going of what you had established here last year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think no matter if we were in Atlanta or we're heading to Philadelphia now, those are good teams, and you need to play good baseball in order to beat them. So, we didn't play good enough baseball all around, this time through. So, just because we didn't have success this time doesn't mean that, the next time we show up here that we can't, bounce right back and have success at this place. So I just think, we didn't play our best baseball, and they played very well. They got timely hitting. They had good pitching. I mean, they did very well. So I'm not going to take anything away from the Braves. I said coming in here, I think they're a better team than what their record shows. They got off to a rough start, just kind of like we did last year, and look what happened with us last year. So, I do not think that just because we came in here and got swept that it's a representation of, we're back to step one of trying to overcome the Braves. I still think they're a good team. I think Philadelphia is a great team that we're about to play, and it's going to take good baseball in order to beat them, and in order to beat anybody that we play right now.
When the offense had a couple slumps earlier in the season, the rotation really carried you guys. Yeah. As the rotation's going through its toughest stretch this year, does the offense feel any added responsibility to kind of step up and maybe win a game for it?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you definitely would like to do that, but it kind of starts with smaller thinking. You just have to try and get, a base hit, a walk, do exactly what TT did right there was, base hit, steal a bag, and then, just takes a base hit to score a run right there. So start smaller. You can't try and do it all at once. Can't try and go out and hit a 5-run home run. Doesn't exist. So you just try and start small, try and win the battles, that you go up there and control, which is strike one, strike two, and trying to stay in the zone. I think that's where you start, and then you go from there. Hitting's contagious, once we start small and we do well there, then I think it'll come around. I think we've had a few bad games, but I don't think our offense is terrible the last few games. We've just had some unfortunate luck where we've ended up losing some games by 1 run, and then we've got blown out of some other ones where we didn't even really come back. So I don't think that our offense is like totally out of it. I think it's there. I think it's right around the corner. Just going to start with small things and build from there.
Losing two starting pitchers, especially somebody like Kodai, how much can that change the atmosphere in the room sometimes?
No question. It definitely can. Kodai's an amazing pitcher. I'm looking forward to Sean as well. Manaya getting back, and same with Montas. Those are great guys, great pitchers, have a great track record. So those are positive things to look forward to. But there is no question that you lose a part of your identity as a team. When you don't have Kodai going out there, as your guy every 6 days. But I can't say that we're the only team that's experienced that. The Dodgers have probably experienced it way worse than us. So you still have to go out and find ways to win. But it does hurt. There is no question about that.